As we wrap up an eventful 2024, there is no better time to reflect on how much Salesforce has changed as both a product offering and a company. When we last reflected on the state of all things Salesforce last year, the job market and the ecosystem, the message was clear. Saturation, layoffs, and unease about the future were the main talking points. A year later, how different do things look now? 2020's COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the globe, and it's safe to say that although we are now out of the weeds, the magnitude of its ripple effect has negatively impacted the past few years and may continue to do so. Interestingly, the tech industry didn't crash and burn during this time as other industries did. It thrived. Shira Ovaid, a journalist for the New York Times, wrote a post in 2021 that included a brilliant quote: "I promise you that big tech's numbers are now so wild that I'm running out of non-curse words to explain them." Salesforce, of course, felt this too. Their 2020 State of Sales report showed that 84% of sales operations professionals said digital transformation had accelerated since 2019. Virtual selling had become the new norm, and it was a fruitful time across the ecosystem. As the world began to climb out of its hiding across 2021 and 2022, things were still going strong. Salesforce had announced a record Q4 in March 2022, and Mark Benioff spoke of tremendous demand from customers, ending the year off on a high. Enter 2023, and come January, Salesforce announced that they would be laying off 10% of their workforce, after letting go of nearly 1,000 employees in November 22. The boost of the pandemic had come to a sharp end, with Benioff admitting that Salesforce has hired too many people throughout the pandemic. We had seen the peak, and we are now in the trough. Despite this, Salesforce made one of its first bold steps into the AI realm come March 2023, announcing and unveiling Einstein GPT, both a challenge and a nod to ChatGPT that graced the world not too long before. Then came Dreamforce, where the first AI rebrand came into effect. Einstein GPT had become the Einstein One Studio and platform, operated by the Einstein Copilot. Einstein One Studio, as we know, consisted of Prompt Builder, Skills Builder, and Model Builder, transforming the way Salesforce professionals use Salesforce AI going forward. It was a big venture and a committed step to the forefront of AI innovations, but it unfortunately did not perform as well as anyone might have hoped. The Einstein platform just wasn't accessible to many orgs due to its pricing, and the full effect of this didn't really become apparent until Dreamforce 2024, when it was announced that only 122,000 prompts were being executed per week, compared to 83 billion flows.
Meanwhile, the ecosystem and the job market by extension was facing a level of uncertainty not felt since the recession era of 2008 to 2010. 10K's 2023 Talent Ecosystem report revealed some less than favourable insights, and ultimately, there just weren't enough jobs for newbies looking to break their way into the industry. The luck for existing Salesforce professionals wasn't faring too well either, and layoffs had already started the year off in a less than promising way.
On top of this, 9% price increases across Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Industries, and Tableau likely did not make situations easier for end users. A lot of businesses also struggled with rising costs due to the highest rate of inflation in 40 years. So with 2023 faring as one of the most difficult years in Salesforce's history, how has 2024 been? Let's take a look at the job market first. We concluded at the end of 2023 that the Salesforce job market was decidedly saturated, kindled by a disparity between supply and demand, as well as salaries, and the rise in certified professionals with half-built skill sets. The end of the year signaled a murky future. Was a career in Salesforce even worth pursuing anymore? This year's findings from 10K's 2024 Talent Ecosystem report indicate that Salesforce, like many other tech industries, is continuing to experience what can be interpreted as a post-COVID hangover, essentially a slowdown or correction following the rapid growth and high valuations experienced during the pandemic surge in digital transformation and remote work adoption. As a result, once again, there is a distinct disparity between supply and demand. This year, supply grew by 19% and demand decreased by 37%. It will take a while for the ecosystem to find an equilibrium here, but this news is not as stark as last year. The drop in demand is only 37% this year compared to 46% last year. The rise in supply was also slower this year, with a 19% increase compared to 28% last year. It can also be speculated that this is due to uncertainties within the ecosystem surrounding Salesforce's direction, the threat of layoffs due to AI, and the continued difficulty in landing Salesforce jobs. In our first salary survey, we were able to paint a clearer picture of this. An overwhelming majority, 87%, of respondents admitted that the market has been more challenging than in previous years. Juniors in the industry felt this most, but the pinch was felt across the board, even extending to director-level positions. This was unfortunately coupled with a decline in career opportunities. Of the respondents, 54% said there have been fewer opportunities within their roles, 20% said there have been more, and 25% said they stayed the same. LinkedIn statuses and Reddit threads with titles like "Getting a job at Salesforce, how the hell" remain prevalent, especially as 10K's report stated Salesforce is indeed hiring, with 755 open roles documented in early August, and the announcement of hiring 1,000 employees in November. It's in threads like the one mentioned here that people voice their struggles of getting hired by Salesforce, with one commenter noting that they believe most hiring now happens through referrals or acquisitions. In the wider partner ecosystem, you could assume that hiring would have increased due to 20% increase year-on-year in the number of Salesforce partners, the most notable increase since 2020. However, some of the most recent high-profile layoffs will be taking place after the acquisition of Own, so it's tricky to say whether the number sits in the positive. At this stage, it's important that we acknowledge the elephant in the room, Agentforce. In case you haven't heard the buzzword enough this year, there's no denying the power that Agentforce has both as a product and market disruptor. So far, the stats look positive. Salesforce have announced that they are aiming to hire over 1,000 people to help keep up with Agentforce's demand. At the time of recording this video, there are currently 46 open jobs, matching the word Agentforce on Salesforce's career site. However, like with any notable new technology such as AI, a substantial group of professionals worry that a technology like Agentforce will actually result in a larger loss of jobs. From a service level perspective, it can be easy to begin believing that Mark Benioff, Salesforce's CEO, has continuously pioneered Agentforce as a truly groundbreaking product. It's definitely too early to make a concrete or meaningful hypothesis here, as the future remains very much in Salesforce's working hands. However, it was Agentforce that was touted as the driving force behind last quarter's strong earnings too, and what feels a world away from the disappointing results of this year's first quarter. Not only that, but there's been good news for investors too. There's been a 65% increase in Salesforce's stock price since its notorious dip in May. It must be said, growth is not accelerating by any means, but the first proof of escaping 2023's trough has now indeed been outlined. But before we move on to how the wider ecosystem is doing, there is no doubt that 2025 is going to be the year of Agentforce and Salesforce AI. But before you start integrating AI tools, you need to make sure that you're not feeding it bad data. Traction Complete helps prepare your data in Salesforce to be read, understood, and usable so you can get the best results from your AI tools. With a data management suite of solutions, they help you clean, connect, and orchestrate your data so you can cut out CRM noise and get the right context. Check out how you can get started and clean your Salesforce org by clicking on the link at the top of the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen now. Right, back to the reset. When it comes to the state of the wider ecosystem, although a portion of the ecosystem has its concerns, satisfaction amongst professionals is high. If we draw from our salary survey once again, we can see that the majority of professionals stated that they felt 80 to 90% satisfied in their careers. However, in the same vein, 58% of respondents also admitted they were considering changing jobs or industries in the near future. We concluded earlier this year that this comparison of statistics didn't necessarily equate with professionals being unhappy in their roles, but indicate that although they may be content in their positions, they also weren't afraid to jump ship for better opportunities. It's something that I'm quick to make sure people understand realistically. 2024 has had its fair share of grievous moments, but things do seem to be heading in a more positive direction. People are shifting away from the boom of 2022 and starting to reset to reality. Less demand for Salesforce professionals and a decrease in salary depending on your role and location is unfortunately the norm for the moment. And although it can be seen in a negative light, it's still a shift upwards compared to this time last year. If we look at professional satisfaction through a financial lens, we're provided with a strong idea of how content Salesforce professionals are in their Salesforce roles. In our salary survey, 56% of respondents said that they feel their salary is fair and equal compared to others in their role, with 43% of respondents disagreeing with this statement. This nearly even split highlights a wide range of opinions. Several factors could explain this, such as a decline in salaries compared to 3 or 4 years ago, a perception that salaries don't align with job responsibilities, or wages failing to keep pace with rising inflation. When we first heard the word pivot come from Mark Benioff regarding Salesforce's Agentforce strategy, for many, it acted as a considerable indication that, okay, this is where Salesforce is going. As I mentioned earlier, 2023's big Salesforce news was the release of the Einstein 1 platform, which, as we know, has been rebranded into Agentforce. In a year, Salesforce's golden offering has been given the makeover of a lifetime, and the possibilities, seemingly, were endless. At least from Salesforce's perspective, AI agents are the way forward, and there is no better proof of his belief in this than Mark Benioff's constant excitement surrounding Agentforce. In the company's latest quarterly results, we got the latest facts and figures to back up Benioff's excitement. Salesforce closed 200 deals for Agentforce in just the last week of one quarter, and the pipeline is in the thousands for potential transactions that are coming up in the future quarters, according to the CEO. However exciting as this may be, it's important to view this situation at a more granular level. One professional we spoke with in the ecosystem laughed when we asked them what they thought about implementing this kind of AI in the near future. Don't even consider that yet, especially if you're an SMB, they said. Fix your data quality first. They also said that they wouldn't be pushing Agentforce anytime soon due to the fact that their clients just wouldn't be able to afford it. Agentforce can be expensive, especially if you apply it to the wrong business use case. Due to its usage-based model, you want to ensure that each conversation, on average, leads to direct cost savings or revenue generation exceeding $2 per conversation. It's important to sit down with your numbers too. Gauge the tool's value. For example, if an agent was able to handle 20 interactions an hour, it would cost around $40 an hour per Agentforce's pricing, assuming no bulk discount is in play. That's why you shouldn't view Agentforce as an investment, and why you should think of it more as a virtual employee. If we can finish 2024 off with one takeaway, let it be this. The Salesforce ecosystem, job market, and product offering selection are, albeit slowly, getting stronger. Salesforce might be out of the worst of the after-pandemic situation, but they'll need to have one hand on the code and one hand on the crystal ball to ensure that Agentforce is as accessible as it needs to be to stand up against the likes of its competitors.